Thank you. ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। नारायणः परो व्यक्तात् अण्डमव्यक्तसम्भवम् अण्डस्यान्तस्त्विमे लोकाः सप्तद्वीपा च मेदिनी। When a karma is performed, there is definitely going to be some consequence which is a result of that karma. And when a karma is ought to be performed and it is not performed, it will have the effect of omitting it. That is called sin of omission or pratyavaya. And these are the direction, or these are the action and the results as decided or as laid out as the natural laws by that Ishvara. What the scripture is trying to do is only Suchaka or Jnapaka Matra. It is not to be misinterpreted or misunderstood that it is the scripture is becoming the Karaka for the Phala, that why are you doing it? Because the scriptures say so. When you say that electricity you have to deal with cautiously, it is the natural law that if you don't deal with it cautiously, you will have a very beautiful, shocking experience. That which is the beautiful, shocking experience, what does the scripture say? The book of physics, the chapter of electricity talk about? It says that do this or don't do this. It is not trying to prescribe as the one who is going to give you the result of it, but it is only pointing out, Suchaka or Jnapaka, pointing out that, Bhaiya, be careful. Oh dear one, be careful. Because this is how it naturally acts and responds. This is how you have to deal with it. But if somebody were to interpret saying that, oh, this shock has happened in religion, when it comes to, We are often either told or we often tell. Why are you doing it? Because this is what the scriptures have authenticated, authorized. The scriptures are not talking as the authorizing agency, but it is just pointing it as the factual effect of the karma and its consequence, or the performance of karma and its consequence, and the non-performance of karma and its consequence. So the pratyavaya is not the effect of the shruti. Shruti is just standing as a pramana, pramakaranam. Pramakaranam of what? That which is the sadhya vastu, that this is how it is going to happen. It is just pointing at that. So don't tell that the shruti is the karaka. Because the Purva Pakshi, the way he raised the question was, but the shruti is what saying that you will get the papa. I said, shruti is only pointing at that which is the Ishvara Anushtita Karma Phala Chakra. So don't over exceed and put it on the scripture, saying that, because that is what happens, which will make it dogmatic. When you put it on the scripture, saying this is what the scripture says, therefore do so or don't do so, even before I believe all the other religions could have ever come, very clear on this. The Shruti is only the Suchaka. Suchaka with regards to the karma, karma phala, or not performing the karma, and therefore don't bring the pratyavaya as the karaka dosha of the Shruti. So this is where many of you were like, क्या बोल रहा है ये भाई? Because the question was that the Purva Pakshi himself was giving a status of karakatva, a status of that which is with the Ishvara. I said, no, it is what the Shruti is going to do. The Shruti is going to create that kind of pratyavaya dosha, papa phala, and it is going to be dukkha. The Shruti is not going to be the karaka of dukkha. All that the Shruti cares about is to provide the right direction for knowledge. Having said that, he says, in this second chapter, where Bhagavan Krishna has very clearly said that jnana nishtha is what is the experience of moksha, paramartha siddhi. And when Arjuna looked up to him and said, since anyway I am deciding to leave this battle, that proposition sounds pretty awesome. Can I take to that path? He said, if you want this jnana nishtha, therefore you should perform your karma. And with help of Bhashya, with help of Anandagiri Tika, we understood that why that insistence was suggested. That insistence was suggested because performing karma with the attitude of yoga will definitely bring about the change that is required, the prerequisite that is required by that antakarana to understand, assimilate, and abide as that Atma Chaitanya. And that prerequisite is called Chitta Shuddhi and Chitta Ekagrata. Now Arjuna says, even in his question, the reason this question is being brought up is, even in Arjuna's question, after having heard the second chapter, which is the beginning two shlokas of the third chapter, it doesn't suggest Jnana Karma Samuchaya. He is very clearly stating that Jnana is Uttama. उतना भी पागल नहीं है बेचारा. He may have been confused, but he is not lost it. He is not lost his bearing wherein he doesn't understand what Bhagavan is saying. He understood. He understood that jnana is uttama, jnana is shreyaskara. Jnana alone gives, he's very clearly understood that. But if there are interpretations that are saying that the Bhagavad Gita is meant for this jnana and karma as the means for moksha, it is not the problem of that day alone, it is a problem of even today. When somebody says, how should I do my spiritual sadhana? Because we have been wrongly labeled. We should not have been called as human being. We should have been called always as human doing. Because we are so addicted to the field of doing. Even the spiritual unfoldment, we look at it as the doings. Our own understanding has a flaw in it because of that conditioning. There are others who interpret the path of spirituality, the path of liberation as the goal. And if you want to call some practices and say, this is my spirituality, very well, be there. We don't have a problem. Because that becomes your individual problem. We don't want to jump in, argue with you, or have a, like how Adi Shankaracharya ji had with Mandana Mishra and others. There is no such. Your personal opinion, God be with you, may the force be with you. We don't have any objection there. But when you say that the entire scripture is pointing at it, then we have a problem. Wherein the interpretations are, even today, what are the interpretations? The interpretations are that by repeating this mantra these many times, you get this moksha which is called Vaikuntha. Where you will have Sayujya, Salokya, Sarupya, Samipya. These are the further intensified effects of your sadhana. Different gradations in your moksha. It logically doesn't sound right. Why? See, at the external level, it sounds pretty much like, I write an exam. And depending on what kind of grade I get, I will be selected for that level of whether it is engineering. Even in that, that is how we used to have. If you have a better score, then you have a better option of choosing which field that you want to go into. It feels very workable. Maybe even in the field of the spiritual unfoldment, you do a better sadhana, better amount of japa, better amount of the tapas, better amount of tirtha yatras, and a lot of seva satkara, then you get to sarupya, salokya, samipya. You get to the closest to the closest to the close. You get to choose. Even in that, though it appears very, very logical and systematic, the flaw is that which is called moksha cannot have gradations. Either you are or you are not. When somebody is being released from the jail, either you are or you are not. एक टांग बाहर है, एक टांग अंदर है, नहीं हो सकता. Either you are completely released from it or you are still hanging in there. You cannot make a statement of both being a possibility. Why? When we talk about the snake on the rope, Either the snakeness has completely gone away and the rope darshana has happened, or you're still seeing the moha of a snake being projected on the rope. Because there cannot be, 58.25%. I don't know why that number came up. I am also surprised. 58.25% of that snakeness has vanished. The rest of it is still there. Doesn't sound logical. Either it is completely gone away or it is not gone. I'm still under the effect of my own ajnana. So the problem itself is not understood properly. That is where the conclusion has issues. If the destination itself is not understood, destination is not properly understood, you will reach wherever and you will call that place as your destination. It ain't right. There were two ships that sailed for searching the easiest route for India. One was Columbus and the other was Vasco da Gama. That fellow, the second fellow, reached India, the dotted one. And the other fellow reached wherever he reached, he called them as Indians. They're two different things. Until it was proven and said they're not the same, they were very happy. They were very happy in claiming that that is India and that is Indians. For the longest time, they were. Even now, we have teams. How many years independence here? Truly, I don't know how to call it even as an independence. There was no oppressors. The oppressors declared independence. So 260 years? 270 years? Something like that. People got citizenship, right? You have to know the history, I believe. So, even after these many years, there is some Indian, there's a team, right? What Indians? Cleveland Indians. There are some teams still named. That was by mistake. Therefore, when we are doing the Tatparya Nishchaya, just because everybody has named that as or translated it from Latin, Hebrew, or Sanskrit as God, and the word is common looking, that which is being pointed by that God by their own interpretation should be also the same. It cannot be different. Otherwise, a Hindi chore and a Malayali chore should be the same. What is in Hindi? Chore means thief. Malayali chore means cooked rice. And I can give you so many examples. The same word in multiple languages has got different meanings. Just because it sounds and looks like the same word, now what is the meaning pointing at? That is what decides. That is called Tatparya Nirnaya. I keep saying God, you keep hearing God, but what I am pointing at God and what you are looking at as understanding as God, if they are two different, कहीं तो कुछ गड़बड़ है, मेजर गड़बड़ है. It will be like that flight that went from here, which had to land in wherever, Germany or wherever, it landed somewhere else. The captain, the whole crew, the passengers, everybody thought they were landing in Germany. And tada, when they opened the door, they were somewhere else. If that which is being pointed at is not understood properly, is not being pointed at properly, is not being interpreted and understood properly, then what is being communicated or what is being understood are two different things. Even within the Dvaita, Vishishtadvaita, when they say that, the Bhagavan, with attribute, without attribute, even in Advaita Vedanta, we say that with attributes we accept. But we accept with a caveat. What is the caveat? That this is the Ishwaratva substratum is still that Paramatma Tattva. Because if that angle or that perspective is not taken, then it cannot be defined as that existential reality. Even that Ishwaratva has a certain time and a certain period for which that creation exists, Ishvara exists. Without creation, there is no Ishvara. That fellow wearing special kinds of clothes in the cricket field, standing near those three wooden pieces, wickets, seems to control a lot of decisions, a lot of power invested in him. As long as that fellow is in the Jagat called that cricket ground, and there are these jivas that are playing around, that fellow has the Ishwaratva that when he picks up his hand and points one finger, that fellow has to leave. The same fellow without that Jagat doesn't have any more that power. You could say, I was acting as that umpire there. Now, without Jagat, that umpireness is not there anymore. Ishwaratva has a certain point of reference of validity only when there is Jagat. Without Jagat, there is no Ishvara. No necessity for Ishvara. This Vyashti is a possibility because there is Samashti, and that Samashti is a possibility only when there is Vyashti. Can there be a beautiful wall built without individual bricks put in there? Now take all these bricks, build a wall, but make sure that there are no bricks in it. That can happen in contract business. Then दिखाते एक है, करते कुछ और है. Show one thing and they do one thing, wherein that which they have shown as putting, that will not even be there. So the Tatparya Nirnaya, that moksha is the purpose of Shastra. Why is moksha the purpose of Shastra? Because the human life as the Ishvara Anugraha is the most opportune moment for this human being to assert, abide and bask in that joy of being Paramatma Tattva. No other expression has that possibility. So that becomes the very purpose of that human life. There are many things that you can do as a human being. You have landed on moon. By landing on moon, that which I am seeking may or may not have been answered. No other species has landed there yet. Only human beings have landed. But we cannot make that as the very purpose of human life. Am I getting across? Because having landed there, has it answered what you have been seeking, what you have been searching, what you have been wanting all your life is Dukha Nivritti, Sukha Prapti and Abhaya Pratishtha. Has that been achieved by landing on moon? Or we are still in the same definition as Shakespearean usage of man on the moon? Man on the moon मतलब बौरा गया है ऊपर, gone cuckoo upstairs. It is not possible, but this fellow is imagining to be there. Having reached there, that these three things have not been sorted out, so that cannot be the purpose. And because this alone will assure these three things, therefore it became a purpose. Therefore, the scriptures pointing only as this moksha as a pointed sadhya vastu. Then to interpret that kind of scripture saying that there has to be the karma also involved, it adds layers of confusion, because karma cannot yield moksha. Karma is incapacitated to yield moksha. That's why it kind of leaves a very sickening feeling, or uh, a hurt, painful feeling, when a fellow Hindu interprets karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana in saying, oh, do your best, leave the rest. And whatever comes your way, accept it and find your happiness in it. Yo. Where is that meaning in that shloka? Just because it feels good, you cannot fit it in there. Andaz cutting, perfect fitting nahi kar sakte. I don't know how to translate that sentence into English. With approximation of estimates, you cannot have a perfect fit. You go to a tailor and ask that fellow, give him cloth and say, stitch a nice piece. And I say, can I take measurement? I say, just wing it. Sometimes one side may be tight, one side may be loose, one side may not fit. You cannot do that. Tatparya nirnaya, meaning that which the scripture is pointing at has to be understood very clearly. Otherwise, the vague statements that are being made, oh, all gods and all religions are talking about the same God. Kaha? Where? When I'm asking where, I'm challenging the very definition. And if you are defining God as that and you are happy with it, we don't have a problem with it. Continue. But we should not be dumb enough to say that that which is being pointed by them and that which is being pointed by this scripture are the same. They're not. I think I've gone through that logic also enough number of times. When they say that God is in heaven. Now, what does that mean? God is in heaven. I think that fellow has a limitation of space. Why do I say that that fellow has a limitation of space? You are here. म्हणजे काय? Physically, at least, you are not in your home or office. Physically, you are here. It means you are not there. Meaning you are not all pervasive. Your pervasiveness ends right here. 3 feet by 2 feet by 4.5 feet. क्योंकि बैठे हो. When we say that it is that Paramatma Tattva, we say it is that which is eternal, that which is all pervasive, that which is existential reality. If it is existential reality, there is not a single place where it is not. There is not a single time where it is not. In fact, time and space is a conceptual thing which is being superimposed on that. The best part is, the finality of this conclusion is, that Paramatma Chaitanya is verily this Atma Tattva, that which is being pointed as, that when understood is called realization. Yeah, these rishis are very, very blunt people. When it has comes to Tatvarya Nirnaya, they say, Hoga bhai Paramatma koi. There may be some Paramatma. All Sarvavyapi, Sarvantaryami, whatever. Does it have the ability in knowing that Paramatma as that Sarvavyapi? Does it remove my dukkha? Does it establish this Sukha Prapti? Does it give me Abhaya Pratishtha? If not, then दूर से मैं भी एक नमस्कार करूंगा. I'll try to find that which will give me this which I am searching, which I am seeking. Therefore, wherever there is a wrong interpretation or a misrepresentation of Shastra, especially in the interpretation of Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads and Brahma Sutras, Adi Shankaracharya ji very vehemently puts his foot down saying, no, that cannot be acceptable. Wherein you say that karma and jnana can be a mixed forum wherein you do little bit of karma, little bit of this, little bit of that, make bhelpuri out of sadhana. That is not how it is to be done. Jnanat evatu kaivalyam. He says, Jayasi chet karmanaha te mata buddhihi iti arjunasya prashna anupapattehe cha. Even in Arjuna's own question, the anupapatti, the non-possibility of this karma jnana samuchaya is very clearly, obviously seen. Yesterday's example that I had given, that if you have throat irritation or some kind of a cough and phlegm and things like that, people suggest mix ginger juice with honey. You mix those two. And in that combination, early morning you drink that up, it will cut through that phlegm and give you some relief. This is jnana karma samuchaya. Mixture of both of them, there will be relief. I'm just giving you that relief as moksha. Then if somebody asks, I am having diabetes, can I skip the honey part and take only ginger? Will it have the same effect? Can I choose that? Or if somebody says the other way around, that is too harsh a taste, that ginger, I cannot handle it. Honey, very, very nice. Can I choose to skip that ginger juice and only take honey? You can talk about choice when there is a mixture of something and it has a certain effect. You can choose one of them. Like when you have debate or deals with your children. Mommy, can I have that? They must have some liking for one particular food thing. Yes, you can, but after you finish that which you have on the plate. I don't want to touch it. I want to touch that one. Then you can have bargaining deals. But in Arjuna's question, it was not like a choice between the two. Choice between the two saying, should karma also be done or should jnana be done? Between them, which one should I choose was not the question. He also understood, jnanat evatu kaivalyam. Jnana is sreshtatama. If his confusion was, if jnana is sreshtatama and that jnana nishtha alone will give me moksha, then why are you asking me to do karma, Baba? So there is no possibility of jnana karma samuchaya. Yadi, have we done the next paragraph? I think we have. Read if we have not. यदि ही भगवता द्वितीये अध्याये ज्ञानं कर्म च समुच्चयेन त्वया अनुष्ठेयमिति उक्तं स्यात् ततः अर्जुनस्य प्रश्नः अनुपपन्नः जायसी चेत् कर्मणः ते मता बुद्धिः जनार्दन इति. If यदि भगवता द्वितीय अध्याये, भगवता by Bhagavan, in the second chapter, द्वितीय अध्याये, ज्ञान कर्म समुच्चयेन त्वया अनुष्ठेयम. Jnana and karma both have to be mixed in right proportions and be followed by you. Anushtiyam. You have to follow. Iti uktam. If that was said, then Arjuna's question, anupapannaha. Arjuna's question has no grounds in being asked. अर्जुन को ऐसे पूछने की जरूरत भी नहीं थी. There was no necessity for Arjuna to ask that question. Continuing, he says, Arjunaya chet buddhi karmani tvaya अनुष्ठेये इति उक्ते या कर्मणः जायसी बुद्धिः सा अपि उक्ता एव इति तत्किं कर्मणि घोरे मां नियोजयसि केशव इति प्रश्नः न कथंचन उपपद्यते. When Arjuna says जायसी चेत कर्मणः मता बुद्धिर जनार्दन तत्किं कर्मणि घोरे माम नियोजयसि केशव. अर्जुनाय यदि चेत कर्मणि बुद्धि त्वया अनुष्ठेये उक्ते. If Bhagavan had said that both karma and jnana have to be performed simultaneously, iti ukte ya कर्मणः ज्यायसी बुद्धि सा अपि उक्ता एव इति, then Arjuna is not asking which kind of karma is shrestha or which kind of jnana is shrestha. He is saying that jnana is shrestha in comparison to karma. Why? Karma cannot yield moksha, instead it is binding. Jnana alone gives moksha. This Arjuna has comprehended. And therefore, in his question, there is no ambiguity or confusion that as though Bhagavan has mixed up. And therefore, he says, Tatkim karmani ghore mam niyojayasi. Why are you sending me back to karma? There are two ways to understand that statement. That you are sending me back to that karma which is ghora karma. You are sending me back to that field of karma whose very nature is ghora. He is not specifically saying that this particular karma that I am going back to, which is yuddha, as ghora, but the entire field of karma is dukkha prada. Therefore, ghora. Therefore, I want to get out of it. I want to practice this jnana sadhana. For those of you who are still little shaken up with this introduction, who are like, "ठीक है भाई, when will we get to the shloka?" I see it in the eyes. I see the disparity. This 3-4 pages. That is how entire Brahma Sutra, 555 sutras, and the Bhashya on it is. Every single sentence, every single word is, you know, putting argument and nyaya, tarka, everything into it. Whatever you have seen, whatever you are seeing, Brahma Sutra is only that. Whatever we are going through, it is just doing a certain portion of Nirupana. First of all, understand two distinct things happening here. One, there is Arjuna's confusion. Okay. Arjuna's confusion and the understanding, the very confusion has been explained only now. Up until now, that confusion was not even introduced. But instead, Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya ji took up a completely different set of confusions that are already there in interpreting the scripture, especially Bhagavad Gita. What is that confusion? That Bhagavad Gita talks so much about this yoga buddhi, the attitude of yoga when performing karma. So there are many of you who jump to conclusion quickly, deciding that entire Bhagavad Gita talks about karma as the moksha sadhana. Karma as moksha sadhana has not been given anywhere. In fact, the very last message also says, Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. Sarvan anyan dharman tyaja. Swatma dharmani. In your own swadharma, which is your true nature, abide in that. It also is quite shattering because many of us use that shloka with the interpretation that there is one entity at whose feet I can put my head under. Sir, under. Literally, putting the head under is what we are also thinking. Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. He is not talking about an entity. He is talking about that very principle, that which is your true nature, abide in it, giving up all other dharmas. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. Aham tva sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami masucha. This which is shining forth as aham, I, the self, abiding in where there is no papa punya that can touch that. And you have transcended samsara. The 18th chapter, that is the final message that he is giving. Because that is the very direction, that is the very purpose for which otherwise the people have interpreted Bhagavad Gita for stress management, Bhagavad Gita for business, whatever. Have you heard of such things? It- Bhagavad Gita is not Zinda Talisman or in Bombay they used to have Kailash Jivan, Amrit Kailash Jivan. You can apply it, you can swallow it, you can put it in your eyes, put it everywhere. You can use it as a cream. You can अनेक बीमारी एक इलाज. Bhagavad Gita is not being interpreted like that. Bhagavad Gita's singular purpose is, so therefore this is a moksha grantha, and moksha is only because of jnana. Karma at the most. How much? How will it help? It is a indirect help. How indirect? Because that karma provides chitta shuddhi, chitta ekagrata, having which, having that stability, which I Shravana Manana Nididhyasana, when as soon as I hear through Shravana, the understanding points me towards my own true nature. Therefore, this whole question about when if Bhagavan had given jnana karma as both to be combined, and Arjuna asking, Hey Bhagwan, Jayasi Chet Karmana, then Arjuna did not understand Bhagwan's question. Bhagwan's entire second chapter. He missed it, and missed it by like a day and night. Not missed it by an inch, missed it by a complete wrong reference. If Bhagwan had mentioned that hey Arjuna, for having moksha, for having this Atma Tripti, it's like when you have to apply for college. You have to have your, say, supposing you're going for a medical school. You have to have a certain GPA of your undergrad. Then you have to have a certain score on your MCAT. और कोई exam है क्या? Any other thing that goes in? These are the two things that are required. Both are required to get selected into the med school. If there was such a situation, and then Arjuna asks, but MCAT I scored, how much is the score? 520? 523. I scored 523 out of 523. What that means? I scored, but they'll say, but your undergrad GPA, it shows 2.6. So therefore, we put you in a disqualified. Both don't match. Both are required. If Bhagavan was saying karma and jnana was required, and then Arjuna asking this question, then Arjuna has not understood Bhagavan at all. If Bhagavan had said that. And since Bhagavan has not said that and Arjuna is asking this question, it only makes sense that jnana karma samuchaya is not a possibility. Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya ji, if he would have been in today's world as a Mukta Purusha, he would have also made a good job as a acing lawyer. क्या लॉजिक पे लॉजिक मार. Sometimes to understand that logic, you're like, where did and how did and why did he start in that angle to bring this standpoint? Until that punchline hits in, he just brings it in together. So continuing, he says, Nacha Arjunasya eva jyayasi buddhihi na anushtheya iti bhagavata uktam purvam iti kalpayitum yuktam yena jyayasi chet iti prashnaha syat. You cannot imagine that Bhagavan has said that there is karma jnana and Arjuna has gotten confused, or the other way around, that Arjuna is asking because Bhagavan has proposed. Then Arjuna's question is wrong. So when both of these are not a possibility, therefore when Arjuna is asking Jayasi Chet, he is not asking if jnana is more sreshta than karma. He is saying jnana is sreshta than karma. Understood? But sir, why are you making me work in through that karma? Do I have to go through that karma? I don't feel like going through that anymore because there is a better path. Iti bhagavata uktam purvam iti kalpayitum yuktam yena jayasi chet iti prashnaha syat. Therefore, both these options, that Bhagavan suggesting that there is jnana karma samuchaya, and therefore Arjuna is asking which of these two jnana or karma has to be taken up. That option, or Bhagavan saying one thing and Arjuna asking completely a different question. Both of them is not a possibility because Arjuna's question is very, very specific and oriented. He is saying that I understand that karma is greater, Sreshtatama, and that is what I am seeking. Dukkha nivritti, sukha prapti and abhaya pradishtha. Karma is ghora. Therefore, why can't I do, why can't I just practice jnana? Thereby, what has been eradicated completely, nirmulita, jnana karma samuchaya is not even a possibility because that is not the message ever given by the scripture at all. So don't foolishly interpret that scripture is saying uh, during the daytime practice karma, during the night time practice jnana, or whatever is the combination. I created one right now on a quick jiffy. A half an hour this, half an hour that. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. Karma has to still be performed as karya even by the one who is established in that jnana. That is why these are like two different, though they look very close by and though they look like going together, they both never meet. Karma has its own path, jnana has its own path. They both never merge. There is no confusion there. So karma cannot yield sukha ever. Because sukha is not a quality of any vastu or sthana vishesha as a quality. It is not its nature. So the outside field cannot provide it. The only place that you can find it is in your own self, and that self can be only reached through jnana when all the other confusions have been, or wrong identifications have been eradicated. Continue tomorrow. Was today better than yesterday in understanding? Sort of. At least I see the easiness in your eyes. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Hari Om.